Hi everyone, this is Giard from Montreal, Monsieur Bonheur, Mr. Happiness, and author of The Courage to Love From Abuse to Happiness, a Healing Memoir, with a foreword by Patch Adams. Wonderful. Today, we're going to go to chapter 3, chapitre 3. Thank you for coming along on this journey. Chapter 3, Felix. By the time I was 12, I fled from adults, my brothers, and my classmates. I lived with only one purpose: to be invisible. I was constantly reminding myself: make no demands, don't express any needs, and avoid conflicts at all costs. I became a yes man, a good boy. I left home from school without saying goodbye. I stood in corners away from crowds, avoided people approaching me on the sidewalk by crossing the street, and took long detours home. I couldn't speak. I was numb of all feeling except pain. Longing to experience amnesia, I escaped into the imaginary world of comic books. Ding! The red school bell rang, announcing it was lunchtime. As a seventh grader, I got into the habit of hiding out in the school's minuscule library during my lunch break. There were only a few shelves of dust covered books with a small collection of LPs, but I found solace with my heroes: the adventurous news reporter Tintin, who took me around the world, and the hilarious fuzzy brown bear cub Petsy, who wore red and white polka dotted overalls and was friends with a penguin and a seal with a corncob pipe. But my favorite was Noddy, a wooden puppet boy who had a spring loaded head and wore a blue stocking cap with a little bell. He lived in Toyland and was happy all the time. I often imagine myself as Noddy, the good boy whom everybody loved, in his little yellow car. During one such recess, while I was sitting on the old gray carpet and driving happily down the road in my pretend cars, shivers suddenly went down my spine. I slowly turned to face a man I'd never seen before. He looked back at me with kind eyes, curly brown hair, a square jaw, a rug face, and a guitar dangling on his back. His name was printed on the album cover in large white letters: Felix Leclerc. Someone is smiling at me, I thought. I gently picked up the album and pressed it to my chest, feeling a warmth that I missed since Daffy's flight. The librarian was surprised when she checked out the album and placed it in a blue vinyl pouch. He's a French Canadian singer, songwriter, and poet. I'm sure you'll like him. Later that day, I carefully packed my treasure and hid it under my jacket as I made my way home. Alone in the basement, I kept looking again and again at Felix's smile, thinking, I have a friend. When I listened to the songs, I discovered that his warm, deep voice was as beautiful as his heart. Something new vibrated within me. I listened to one song over and over again: Le Petit Bonheur, a little happiness. A ballad about how happiness has abandoned him. The last line was about changing sidewalks to avoid pain. This song is about me. That's what I do every day. Miraculously, for the first time in my life, I felt that someone understood me. Still basking in a warm glow, I stashed the record in my bedroom and made my way to the kitchen for an after school snack. When I entered the room, My two brothers were wrestling on the floor. As I carefully sidestepped them to reach for an apple on the counter, they raised their head and screamed at me. What the fuck are you doing here, you little shit? I froze. I just wanted to get by. They stopped and stared at me so hard my eyes melted right in their sockets. The sight of fresh prey was tantalizing to them, their inner predator ready to devour me. With crazed eyes and sharp claws, they pounced as I backed away, stuttering, Stop! Stop it! Leave me alone! I lost my balance, and my hand landed on the hard, cold steel of a butter knife sitting on the dinner table. Without flinching, I flung it out just in front of them as a warning shot. I didn't want to hurt them, but I ached for the years of pain they inflicted on me to stop. As the knife loudly clanged and bounced off the floor, they froze. For once, I was fighting back, as if Felix had just given me the courage to finally stand up for myself rather than cross the street in fear. Unfortunately for me, after their initial shock wore off, their appetite for causing pain only grew. By standing up to them, I had just upped their game. You little fucker, you're gonna die, they shouted as they lunged at me. I picked up a chair and threw it in front of them. Stop! 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 I screamed my lungs out. There was a dead silence in the kitchen. No one in our household had ever dared to stand up to them in such a way. Much to my surprise, they backed away. Maybe it was the scream, the chair, or my presence. Whatever it worked because their relentless bullying of me stopped right there and then, forever. I tamed the beasts, but sadly, the incident with the chair and knife severed our relationship. They kept going at each other's throat as usual, but I was given a new identity. I was the silent good boy, the one they ignored, the one they pretended not to see, the one they didn't listen to or talk to. This was the heavy price I had to pay for my freedom. I silently accepted it, but I felt disconnected from my family and more alone than I did before. A few months later, my heart shriveled up even more when my parent got divorced and dad moved out. By then, my grades were so poor that my mother opted to send me to College Notre Dame du Sacré-Cœur, which at the time was an all boys Catholic school. Authority will be good for your grades, she reasoned. I would be required to wear a tie, a button down shirt, and a blazer with the school herald on the pocket. Not only wouldn't I know anyone there, but even worse, I had to repeat seventh grade so my classmates would all be younger than me. In addition to my dad being gone and my brothers ignoring me, I was now pulled away from Pedzi, Nadi, and Felix. As the silent good boy, I had no say in being exiled on the city bus to an unknown district. For the next 2 years, I desperately needed to connect to someone or something, so I turned to comic book superheroes. Maybe Batman, Superman, or Spider Man will rescue me. I soon found that I had more in common with the humorous hotballs who'd been rejected by their peers. Plastic Man with his ridiculous red suit and wide white ski goggles, and the Metal Man, a group of living robots, each with a unique personality. Of all the Metal Men, I related most closely with the self doubting and insecure Tin Man. But the outcasts were the best in my mind. I was the beast of the X-Man who was hunted by society, the mild-mannered scientist Bruce Banner who turned into the green monster, the Hulk, the Thing, the Rockman from the Fantastic Four, Swamp Thing and Man Thing, no longer human but a living plant monster, and Metamorpho, who considered this superpower a disease and himself a freak. I'm a freak. I don't belong anywhere. During my adolescence, I created a new family with TV sitcoms. Fonzie from Happy Days, a rebel in a black leather jacket a la James Dean's, was my older protective brother. Uncle Bill from Family Affair was my caring relative. And Uncle Martin from My Favorite Martian was my funny brother. I wanted to be successful like gentleman farmer Oliver on Green Acres, but instead I was Gilligan, the young, inept, accident prone first mate of the SS Minnow from Gilligan's Island. These characters were dependable and always made me laugh. Dinner time was always TV time because it was the only way to bring peace to our household and provide a brief respite for Mom. During the night time, though, I was attacked with horrific visions. I was number six from the British TV series The Prisoner, in which a former spy is kidnapped and held hostage in a small village. Dehumanized and kept under constant surveillance, the main character is stripped of his identity and is simply referred to as number six. I could relate to him because I was the silent good boy. And when he repeatedly screamed, I am not a number, I'm a free man, I felt something stir deep inside me. Even in my nightmares, I was voiceless. Often I was lost inside an old dark mansion. Suffocating and feeling threatened, I ran for my life. But no matter which way I went, I encountered locked doors. Every corridor led to another part of the maze. Walls moved and closed in on me. I felt a trapdoor and emerged petrified and alone, shivering from fear. I am number six. Night after night, I woke up thinking, is this my home? In my nightmares, if I wasn't trapped in a house of horrors, I was homeless and sleeping in a cardboard box that stank of piss. Still worse, and this one terrified me the most, even in daytime, was being stuck in a dark elevator. When the whole thing jerked into a free fall, my head would spin and crash against the cold metal gray wall as I was tossed about with nothing to hold on to. Then suddenly it would swerve sideways, left, right, left again, up, down, like a roller coaster. Nothing made sense. I was utterly helpless as the cabin spiraled out of control, accelerated, and then crash, exploding into a million pieces and leaving me a crumpled form in a pool of blood. Each time I had this dream, I would awake with a start, trembling in my cold, sweat soaked sheets. As if the nightmares weren't bad enough, when the night terrors began, I really dreaded sleep. I didn't dare shut my burning eyes, even if I was totally exhausted. Don't sleep, don't sleep. I laid down with the light on and the radio tuned to a late night call in talk show. These became my lifeline with a reality, a voice with which I could connect. But long past midnight, The thoughts invaded my mind. Where do I belong? Where's my home? I have no origin, no reason to live, no hopes of ever finding love. I felt a wave of lava burn my skin and set my body aflame. What is life? What is that? What does it mean to exist? What's forever? I'd leap out of bed in pure agony, doubled over from stomach cramps, sometimes accompanied by diarrhea or vomiting. During these episodes, I'd switch on every light in my room, frantically run in circles, jump up and down, slap both fists into my mattress, punch myself in the face, and silently shriek inside my head, I need sensations. I need to feel something, anything. Then, removing the lampshade, I'd stare directly at the light bulb, blinding my retinas as the burning sensation brought me back to reality. After that, the shaking would subside, my stomach would calm down, and I could breathe again. Nobody knew. One night, after months of these attacks, I heard a diabolical laughter. That's it. I've gone completely mad, I thought. But it was coming from the radio. As I listened, this insane giggle calmed me. It was Speak to Me from Pink Floyd's album, The Dark Side of the Moon. It was as if a safety valve had just opened. It's my own laughter, the laughter lurking in my void. It's out there in the real world. I had found a new anchor to reality, music. Reassured, like a wet lump of clay, I plopped onto my mattress and drifted off to sleep. The next day, I bought The Dark Side of the Moon with its black prismatic art on the cover. Next to it in the record bin was Supertramp's Crime of the Century. On that cover, disembodied hands grasped prison bars, which reminded me of number 6 in The Prisoner. The song Asylum really spoke to me. It made me realize that I wasn't the only one afraid to be locked away in a white padded cell. I soon discovered that music could help me express my fears, my loneliness, and the sadness I felt. So I bought a tape recorder to create my own mixes. The tracks pacified the anxiety I felt from the barrage of assaults my classmates hurled at me and reminded me that, in fact, I exist. When everyone was out of the house, I'd hesitantly sit at the piano in our living room. All of my siblings were offered lessons, but I wasn't. As I attempted to play, the gentle high notes and the deep vibration of the low notes soothed me. When I tried to play a chord of 2 or 3 notes at the same time, the harmonies were magical and sparked a tiny light in my void. With pen and paper in hand, figuring out the scales by ear, I composed at the age of 12 my first pieces of music. Excited, I got my cassette player and recorded them, hoping that someday I could find my voice. Thank you. That was chapter 3, Felix. I will put after this the recording from that cassette player from in those days of one of my first compositions. So I hope you will enjoy it. I hope you will find the depth that I found in it in those days. I love you all. This is Giard, Monsieur Bonheur, Mr. Happiness. wishing you an amazing life. I believe in you. Everything you dream of, everything you can imagine, you can make it happen. I love you all. Have a good listen. Thank you.